Let me guess. You've been bidding a lot of work lately, but you're not winning more. You're not winning. And the ones that you are winning, you're barely making enough money, and you're not confident enough to submit the bid you know you ought to submit the number you know you should. You're afraid if you price it too high, you'll lose the work. Maybe you're even avoiding high end projects because you feel like you don't have the skill set, you don't have enough experience to play at that level yet. You're stuck. You're underpricing yourself. You're second guessing. You're hoping that someone just picks you. But here's the truth, and I didn't like it either. You're not losing bids because of your price. You're not losing bids because of your experience. You're not losing bids because you're not qualified enough. You're simply losing bids because you are not communicating well enough to those clients your value. What I'm about to show you in this video, what I'm going to share with you is a guaranteed way to win more work. How? I know this because I've implemented this exact system in real time currently right now in our business. You're not communicating your value better than the other guy. You're not showcasing why you might be higher, your attention to detail, the products you specify, the coordination you bring, the way you capture everything that needs to go into that project. You're not highlighting the guarantees you may have, your systems, your schedules, your communication, everything that makes you the professional worth paying for. You're just submitting a number and praying they pick you. Am I right? Look, it's okay because I did this for years. I was never taught how to do this the right way. And guess what? You were probably never taught this either. But here's the good news. It's fixable. It's extremely fixable. And with a little bit of confidence and commitment, you can start landing bigger jobs, better jobs. And over the next 60 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through the exact shift I made that took my company from zero experience, zero clients to an 8-figure construction business in just 2 years. I know it sounds crazy, but just stick with me. You need to understand this because how you're going to win more work guaranteed is through this simple process. And it's not what you think. Broke, defeated, drinking more, and completely lost. Trust me, I know exactly how it feels to feel lost. I was caught in the same cycle myself. Now, when I was 36 years old, I was back waiting tables. I'd run a food business for 10 years, and I thought I was going to be the guy. Tens of millions, success and security, all by the age of 30. I'd be done. I'd be retired, living the good life. And then it failed. It failed hard, with no money, a bruised ego, and a really bruised reputation, and literally nothing to show for it. I had to start from all over, from zero. I was heartbroken, humiliated. I didn't even know it then, but it was truly the best thing that could have happened to me. Because when you have nothing, you have no choice to learn and first and foremost, do it the right way. So I would go to this job, I would pull up in the parking lot, and I'd pack a little vodka, and I'd go to 7-Eleven every time, and I'd put that vodka in a Red Bull, and I'd sit in my car, and I'd listen to some podcast about rah, 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 get it going. And I was just so defeated. I was so completely defeated. I'm sitting there, I'm drinking more, I'm completely lost, and I had no money. And because of this, I lost all confidence. But after years of working at this restaurant, I sent out applications, I had multiple interviews, and I finally landed and took a job at Utah's largest construction company. It was a $1 billion company, and I started at the bottom. I literally knew nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. I didn't know anything about construction. But what I did know was how to run a business. So I worked there for a couple years. I learned everything I could, not just about building houses, building businesses, but how to run the business, how to build the systems, how to operate the systems. And then when COVID hit, it was my time to quit. I started my own thing from scratch. No pipeline, no reputation, no resume, and certainly no money, no safety net, no nothing. And 2 years later, we landed $20 million worth of builds, and we had them on the books. Now, this is not because I'm special, not because I'm a better builder than most, not because I underbid everybody. It was because we built systems to showcase our value. And when we committed to following those systems every single day, Systems that gave us consistency when everything around us was chaos. Systems that made us look and feel professional, even when we were small. Systems that let us punch way above our weight. And what I'm about to share with you is the exact belief system and process that made it all possible. And it can make it possible for you too. I promise you this. You got to stick with me. One thing I want you to know about me is I'm not the expert you think. A lot of people think that I just knew so much about construction. There's no way I could do this. Look, I'm telling you something. I got to be completely honest with you. I didn't know shit about construction. I've never framed a wall. I've never loaded a nail gun. I don't wear a tool belt, but I know how to run a business, and I know how to bid work in a way that wins trust, commands respects, and positions us as professionals. And if I can build a $20 million construction company without swinging a hammer or any real construction experience, imagine what you could do with all the experience you have in construction if you just shifted your mindset and the way you think about how you bid. This is simple. It requires work, but it's not hard. And it's a lot of people out there are not doing this. And if you can implement these little systems, you're going to win, because I implemented this early. And then as we've started to grow, which I'm going to get more into in this video, we learned how to really punch above our weight and start going against contractors we never even dreamed that we were going to go against. And this is real-time data that I'm sharing with you. This information that I'm showing you right now, this is real information about how we're doing this in current time and how we've won bigger jobs than we ever have. So one thing about construction and estimating and all this jazz, it's not your price, it's your mindset. I know that sounds crazy. Estimating isn't just about the numbers. It sounds crazy, but estimating isn't about being exact. It's about being confident. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, your numbers are a big component to the clients hiring you. But in the beginning, your clients are going to look beyond the numbers. How well do you understand the story your client is trying to tell themselves, and ultimately trying to tell you if you listen? What do I mean by that? Every client has a story. Every client has a bad experience. They have a Pinterest board they're excited about. This is their life savings. They got a divorce and they got to start over. Everybody has a story. And if you listen to that story, you can really learn a lot about these clients, and you can really understand what they're afraid of, what they're hoping for, what do they actually care about when it comes to this house being done. It's about how clearly and confidently you can communicate that you understand the story and how you can deliver it. In the initial sales process, the numbers, they're literally just placeholders. Once you start to communicate your value, your story, the numbers, they start to take a back seat. Your confidence, your conviction, what you sell on the job is what's going to win you the job. Here's the best way to do this. Here's the best way to understand what your client is doing, what your client wants, what your client is trying to tell you. Questions are king. Write that down. Questions are king. Here's what you need to know to win bids. You don't need to race to the bottom. You don't need to be the cheapest guy to land yourself at the top of the ladder. You start by asking better questions. Hey, what's more important to you? What's the most important thing you need in this house? Is it your budget? Is it your schedule? Is it the kitchen? Is it the floors, the natural light, the man cave, the backyard? When you picture this house finished, what are the first things you're excited to show people? The powder room, the master, your famous closet? And then you build your bid process around those priorities. You don't just slap a cabinet allowance in there. You say, hey, we understand that cabinets are important for you. We bid 5 cabinet makers. Here's the range. Here's the style. Here's who we trust. You also mentioned that you love big, expansive windows. We went with 7 window suppliers, triple pane, wood clad, aluminum. We got the grids, everything. And guess what? We've already set up meetings at the showrooms. We got appointments next week. We can actually touch and feel these products. If you go to the showroom next week, you recommend a couple of finish stores they can visit. You build allowances that actually match their dream. You're not just guessing for the cheapest option. You go above and beyond, especially in the areas that matter to them. Not just estimating, that's leading. And that's what real clients, the ones who aren't just shopping for the cheapest number, that's the clients that are going to choose you every time. If you can go to a client and say, hey, we put down these five cabinet bids, and your budget is whatever, and you're holding $100,000 in cabinets. So like $100,000, we're like, yeah, we understand that cabinets are really important to you. So we went out and bid 5 cabinet guys. We're holding $100,000, which is the most expensive cabinet guy. But we heard you. You want flush, you want wood grain, no melamine, you want white oak, you want touchless, all this stuff. Well, we bid it out to 5 guys, and the cream of the crop, everything that you want is $100,000. So that's the baseline, you know now. But we can go all the way down. We can shave it down to a shaker panel. We got melamine boxes inside, but wood frames up front, blah, blah, blah. Those are $50,000. So you can see there's a range. You can save up to $50,000 or $25,000, but we held the highest number because we knew that was important to you. So we wanted to show you exactly what that would cost. Does that make sense? You're showing them their desires and saying, hey, we've captured this, and let's go through it together. You're helping them with that story that they told you, and you're painting that picture of how it's going to work. The great lie. I'll just get out more bids. Every contractor falls short of this at some point in their career. I can crank out more bids, something will hit, but what you're doing is becoming a commodity. You're showing up like the 8th guy that just called, racing to be the cheapest. You're the fastest. That's the race to the bottom, but you think it's the race to the top of the ladder. And what happens when you try to race to the top? When you try to race to the top of the ladder, you actually end up being at the bottom of the ladder because you're racing to the bottom bids. And what lives at the bottom is regret and unpaid bills. This is a fact. Don't race to the bottom. Do not do that. You can't outbid a broken process. If you don't have a system, if you don't have something, your process is going to be broken. And you can't outbid that. You can't come to a client and do all these things and try to beat the other guy that has a system that comes with schedules, that comes with detailed reports, that comes with all these things that they're going to do. I'll never forget the one time I didn't have a system. It was the first remodel we went after. And we did a great job, and we lost the job. And I asked the architect what happened. And he said, oh, well, that other contractor came with a list of prices. Like, he hadn't even seen the job yet. And he showed up with a list of prices based on what it could cost. And he had a pre-construction agreement that he handed them on site, which they signed right there. And I was like, damn, that's leveling up. I got beat by the better guy, and I owned it, and I stepped up, and I remembered that. So you can't outbid a broken process, because I thought I was outbidding this guy. I thought I was the man. I thought I did a great job in displaying this. But in all reality, this guy was way more dialed in me, and he got that job on the spot. So you got to remember that you got to do this. So back to the communication. You know, clients will forgive your mistakes. They're not going to forgive your silence. And this is a very important lesson that I learned with one of my clients. And this is what's kind of changed my bidding process and the way I handle my jobs. Because ultimately, don't forget, your clients, your past projects, that is the best form of marketing you can have in construction. That is the number one form of marketing you can offer or ask for as a contractor when you're trying to get hired by other clients. Google reviews, client testimonials, client phone numbers, that is the number one thing. So I learned this lesson from a client. And we were bidding this job, and we were just throwing out a bunch of numbers. And this client, we were doing about a $3.5 million house for this guy. It was a custom build. And money was tight from day one. In some areas, we were really tight on budget, and we were budget conscious the entire project. So as things started wrapping up, it came time to order the fascia. And we knew to save money in the beginning, i.e. the bidding process, we bid the fascia with a metal that was very light gauge to keep the cost to a minimum. Now, if you know anything about a metal, you know that once it gets into deeper profiles, like 12, 16 inches or more, it's going to start to oil can. It's going to start bowing over time. It's going to warp, and it's going to look like shit. It's just physics. And guess what? Duh, of course it did. It looked terrible, embarrassingly bad. And at the end of the project, the client flew out to do his punch list walk, and he looks up and says, David, why does that metal look like that? And I was honest right away. I told him the truth. I said, it's a light gauge aluminum. He asked, well, why did we do that? I said, well, as you know, money was tight on this project. And to keep everything in budget, we didn't want to push it. We didn't want to call you with a change order. So we didn't want to put the more expensive fascia in the house. And he looks at me very calmly. Now, mind you, I already had a good relationship with this guy, so I wasn't worried to have these conversations. Our relationship and friendship was already solidified. So it was less hard. But he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, David, do you really think that on a $3.5 million house, Had you come to me and told me it was going to cost $10,000 more to put a heavy gauge aluminum up so I wouldn't have to deal with this and my house wouldn't look like shit, do you really not think that I wouldn't have approved that change order and spent that money if you said it's going to look like this in a matter of weeks? Do you really think I wouldn't have spent that extra money? And I just like embarrassingly looked at him and was just like speechless. And I was like, no. And this guy was a very successful business person. He knew a thing or two about customer service. And he said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, let me tell you something, David. It is your responsibility and your number one job to be upfront with your clients. Give them the choice. Don't assume what matters to them. Don't assume because in the beginning money was tight and they may not want to do something because it's all about money. He goes, that's not your job. Communicate better to be better. Now, I appreciate you being considerate of my budget, but your job is not to protect my wallet. And I was like, yeah, it is. He goes, hold on. He goes, it's your job to communicate the situation clearly to me so there are no surprises, David. It's your job to provide the customers with the information they need to know to make a decision. Don't assume, communicate options, let them take it from there. It's your job to communicate options and let them take it from there. Don't assume. That just struck me heavy. He's like, David, from then on, just talk to your clients. Say, hey, just so you know, we bid this out. We've learned this about this product. We had a previous house where this failed. Just want you to know it's $20,000 extra to do that. Don't assume that they're going to say no. And if they do say no, fine. You're moving forward with the course of business as usual. But if they say yes, there's a change order and you know you're delivering a better product. And guess what? We ended up tearing out that fascia and installing the heavier gauge right there. It was embarrassing, and it was a big lesson that hit me hard. And I've never forgotten that. I never will. There's one thing about construction that you're going to hear me say a lot if you follow my content, and it is, number one, construction. Let me just write this down for you. Whoa. Construction is undefeated. You need to write that down. You need to write that down. Construction is undefeated. This is the day that I realized construction will always be undefeated. If you protect your clients, their wallets, you install bad products, you can't always win because you protect yourself with systems. It's a really common lie we tell ourselves that when we get bigger, we all tell ourselves this lie that like construction's undefeated. Oh, I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm just in the thick of it. This just sucks. But once I get bigger, once I get bigger projects, once I get more experience, the problems in construction, they're just going to go away. I used to think that too. I would look up to the big guys in my town, the ones building these 10, 15, 20, $30 million homes. And I think, man, these guys have it dialed. They're smooth sailing at this point. Minimal mistakes, no chaos. But here's the truth that no one wants to share with you online. What everyone would tell you if you sat down with them, that this game of construction, this game of business, it's relentless. Every project presents new problems. Every client has new stories, new personalities, new drawings, new architects, new designers, new curveballs. Every single day, construction is undefeated. Remember this. I can't stress this enough. Construction will always be undefeated. It always will be. And as I got deeper into the business, I started talking to some of these guys I used to look up to. I'm a very inquisitive person. So when I meet people at lunch or I'm at an event or something, I start talking to them. I just ask them questions about their business. I just get really inquisitive. And I start talking shop, but in a way that I get a lot of information out of them. And so I'm looking up to these guys that are doing like $100 million a year. And you know what? They're still dealing with the same stuff. They got lawsuits going on, bad jobs, they're burning out. Some of them, no exaggeration, are even going out of business. And I couldn't believe it. As I drove by their mega mansions, I was like, how the hell does this guy not have it together by now? I couldn't understand it. I was like, why wouldn't this person do it? And I started realizing it's because they're not building the systems. The systems are your life jacket. The systems are the thing that are going to take your business and keep it afloat. Luckily for me, I learned this from a $1 billion company, and I have mentors that have built almost $1 billion exits. And everyone talks about the systems. You hear systems online, systems, but it's so true. And a system can be anything, but it has to be repeatable. It has to be something where everyone goes to the exact same folder, the exact same spreadsheet, the exact same software every single time to do X. And it's done that way every single time. And what I started realizing about these big guys is they started to fail not because they forgot how to build, not because they lost the very thing that they started with, which was like drive and grit and all that. They fell because they didn't have the systems, the details. The details live in the systems. And that's what you have to follow day in and day out. Systems are your life jacket. They keep you afloat. Systems, communication, details. These guys got busy. They got busy. They got big. They got real big. And they stopped doing the little things that kept them sharp. Now, I've spoken to these guys' employees, these project managers. I'll see them at lunch. Sometimes I'm thinking about poaching some of these guys because their superintendents and stuff know how to build big houses. So I live in a small town. So I'll see these guys out to lunch. They're wearing their shirts. And, I start talking to them. And I'm asking their project managers and stuff at lunch. I'm like, hey, can I ask you a question? Because these guys are totally down to talk. I'm like, how do you guys, like, what kind of software do you use? What kind of systems do you use? They're like, well, we don't, everyone does their own thing. What do you mean everyone does their own thing? Oh, like every project manager, every superintendent, they do it their own way. I'm like, you're telling me that house A is different than house B? Oh, for sure. If, Fred over here likes to use legal pads and his cell phone and Dale likes to use text messages, there's no system. They do whatever they feel comfortable doing as the project manager. Now to you may be like, so what? My mind was blown because let's say Fred quits. Let's say Dale gets hurt. And David has to show up and pick up that job. And David's used to a legal pad. And my legal pad's in my truck and I keep it there and we're flipping through shit. And Dale's is all through text message. And Dale's a drunk and got fired and he can't be, you can't get a hold of him. And everything Dale did was in his phone. How do you expect David to come in with his legal pad and figure that out? I can't open up the software, I can't log in, and I can't figure out what Dale was doing. My mind was blown. And it's a small town, you hear about these things. It's a small business community when it comes to builders. And I'm like, no wonder these guys are going out of business. No wonder they started failing. Then I realized we're small, but we're really onto something worth value for long term because we're building something sustainable and most of all transferable. And when I say transferable, if you want to give this business to your kids, if you want to give to your employees, if you ultimately want to quit, if you want to sell your business, it has to be transferable because if it's all via legal notepads and Dale and this, there's no system. So what am I buying? I'm buying a name. I'm buying a name brand. That's all I'm buying versus a system and a machine. And anybody can come log in, anybody can do it, and anybody can win in that. That's exactly what I'm teaching you here today. I know you're probably like, what the hell does systems have to do with bidding? But systems are the foundation of the business that you can't go unnoticed. That's what we're building here in our company, and that's what we're building here on this video today. A system that protects you from chaos. A system where all the details are covered every single day, every single week. A system that you can scale without losing your grip. Because if you don't have it, I don't care how good you are, eventually construction will beat you. Now let me tell you one more quick story. When we started out, we got busy quick. $20 million in 2 years with just two of us. We didn't have superintendents. We didn't have project managers. We didn't have grunt laborers, nothing. And the two of us knew very little about construction. And I mean very little when it came to construction knowledge. In the beginning, we got absolutely smoked. We had 6 houses going at once with just 2 people running the entire operation. We were buried, drowning. And if you were to plot on a bar graph all the contractors in the country that were to do this exact same process and thing that we were doing and had this many houses going at this much with as little construction knowledge as we knew, statistically, the number of contractors in history who had been in our position would have failed. Statistically, we should have lost it all. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag that like I'm better than anybody else. I'm telling you this because as little as I knew about construction itself, We did the right thing by building the systems early, even when it felt premature, even when it felt like we should be spending that time putting out fires. We took these systems that my old employer had, a billion-dollar construction company, and we just rebuilt them into our small residential construction company. We implemented them into our little 2-person shop. The templates, the job folders, the estimating, the sheets, the schedules, cost tracking, all of it. We had a system for it. And most importantly, we followed it. It wasn't perfect, not even close. But what it did is it gave us the space. It gave us the life jacket we needed. It gave us the space to think clearly in all the other areas where we were failing, the construction aspects, all the stuff where we were just flailing. We were able to stay organized in the business, the schedules, the chaos, all that shit. We were dialed. It was enough to stop the bleeding. It gave us the space not to panic, even when everything around us said we should have. We may have been drowning, but those systems gave us the flotation we needed. Those systems were our life jacket, and it gave us enough to survive. And eventually, we were able to learn from it, and we were able to grow. Now, in order to grow, you have to realize that when it comes to bidding your projects, you have to win the work. In order to grow, you have to win work, right? Without sales, you don't have a business. Sales is the lifeline of your business. So in order to grow, you have to realize that you're not selling a number. You're selling certainty. When you're bidding a job, when you're handing over a client a number, if you think you're all about the price, you've already lost. You're not selling a number. You're selling certainty. You're selling trust. You're selling the confidence that you and your team are the ones who can actually pull this off. Whether it's a bathroom remodel, a deck, a brand new custom home, a man cave, it doesn't matter. What matters is this. You are selling them the feeling that when they inevitably get into a messy situation, and let's be honest, it's always going to happen because why? Construction is undefeated. You and your team are the ones that are going to fix it. You and your team are the ones that are going to communicate it and walk them through it. Most clients you meet don't know anything about construction. They're unfamiliar with it. So the only thing they can understand is the final number. The final number is all they know. And it's your job to explain to them why it's so much more than that and how your company is better because of superior communication. You walk them through and they outline exactly how you got to your number. You cater to their real concerns, their budget, their timelines, their finishes, their stresses, the unknowns, all the things they've communicated to you. You show them that you've thought about it. All these problems are going to arise, and this is how you're going to account for it. You're not just handing them a bid. You're literally holding their hand through what's about to be one of the most stressful processes and emotional processes and experiences of their life. You're going to help them understand this by observing who the concerned parties are. You know what, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? I understand pricing is important to you. Let me show you how we arrived at this number and why it reflects the true cost to build this house. And Mrs. Smith, I understand that the kitchen is your masterpiece. So we've made sure that we've accounted for all the top of the line appliances, countertops, cabinets, and more. Building a house isn't just logistics. It's emotion, it's friction, it's decision, it's fatigue. You are there to elevate that pressure. And what you're selling, what your price reflects, is the promise that you can guide them through it with true professionalism. That is what our company does best. That's what separates us from the guy who's $20,000, even $100,000 cheaper than we are. That's why the right clients will choose you. Not every client is for you. Not every client is for you. The right clients will choose you. But you got to stop thinking like a builder. You got to start thinking like a business owner. Most GCs I talk to, and trust me, I talk to hundreds of general contractors. I talk to a lot of people across the country. I engage with these people on social media. I coach contractors. I do one-on-ones with people. I talk to hundreds of contractors. And most of them are stuck in the same mindset. I've talked to guys thinking about starting a construction company, guys remodeling their first bathroom, guys terrified they're going out of business, guys that are going from 6 figures to 7 figures, guys that are hungry to go from 7 figures to 8 figures, all walks of life, all different stages. But almost every single one of them has the same blind spot. They still think they need to be on the job doing the work. And if I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. They still think that their value is performing high-end work. And when you think that way, you price that way. You account for your personal time that way. You limit yourself that way. And you no longer own a business, you own a job. And who the hell wants to own a job with all those stresses and all the risks you take as an entrepreneur? But here's the truth. You're not a framer anymore. You're not a finished carpenter anymore. You're the boss. And being the boss, being the owner, means that you have to start thinking differently. The minute you make that mind shift, how you bid changes everything. How you price changes. How you delegate changes. How you grow changes. That's what we're doing today. That's why you're here watching this video, in order to step into that mindset, in order to stop playing small, in order to change your framework from thinking like a guy on the job to thinking like an owner of a business, a real business. You have to change the way you think, the way you bid, and the way you do everything. And look, truly, it's not complicated, but it does take work. It takes real work. The kind of work most guys don't want to do. You're going to miss weekends, birthdays, barbecues, sporting events, but this is upfront work. You put in this work now, and it's boring work. Building the systems, doing the things, it's boring work. But you put in this work now, this effort, upfront. You work hard now, so you don't have to put in the work in 10 years. It's like building a house. It's the foundation. It goes slow. It's boring. No one sees it, and yet it's the thing that holds the entire house up for the rest of its life. The simple fixes like drywall and paint crack, they fail multiple times, over and over and over, until you redo the framing and the foundation. But those elements of the house, they're going to crack if you keep letting them. That's what you're doing by stepping in. You got to step back and build the systems. So if you're still here watching this video, if you're still here listening, I'm betting that you're not like most people. That being said, let's start to get you real clients. Let's start to get you real work, real people who are actually interested in the company that you have with real value that can bring their project to life. And it all starts with charging for your time. Charging $500 for a business or a bid can change everything. Suddenly you're not wasting your time with tire kickers, only showing up, driving halfway across town for people who are kind of serious. And by the way, on bigger jobs, I've charged $5,000 or $10,000 just to submit an estimate. And the clients that pay it, they'll happily pay it because they see the value through the tailored process that we bring. The bid fee isn't money. It's a signal that you're a professional. You're looking for professional clients who are serious. When I first started my construction company, and by the way, it was only 4.5 years ago, I'd be watching all the YouTube videos, the big influencers, Matt Reisinger, Brad Levitt, saying you need to charge for bids. Not because they want you to make a quick buck, but because they want you to stop wasting your time with people who are never really serious. Those tire kicker clients, the people interviewing 5 builders just to pick the cheapest one. They don't care about your process. They don't care about your quality. They're just chasing the lowest number. And here's the truth about those people. If you're bidding multiple jobs a week and you know you're doing better work than the other guy, and your process and your system and your communication is light years ahead of the other guys that you're losing work to, and it's all because it's coming down to price, you've got a positioning problem. And you've got to solve it by charging a fee. When you start charging $500 refundable for a small remodel estimate, why do you charge? The other builder doesn't charge. Because we only want to work with people who are serious. When we put a bid together, it captures more than a number. We put a lot of time, real effort into our bids. And we want to work with clients who see that value in the work we provide, not just the lowest bid. To be honest, the client who does want the cheapest bids are the biggest pain in the ass, because this is a ton of money to them. And for them, it's everything. And they are the worst. Now, the clients who care about value, about process, about quality, they're going to pay for that. And to be honest, You're not just having some guy in a truck anymore. You're having a professional firm. You bring real value. You've got testimonials. You've got a reputation. You don't give that away for free. And I'll tell you this. I'm getting to the point now where I'm charging $10,000 for bids on bigger jobs. And the crazy part is, the right clients, they don't even blink. If someone's building a $15 million house and they've got to pay 3 builders $10K to find the right one, they'll do it. If I'm doing a $50,000 renovation, I'll pay 3 builders $500 each to find the right one. Sure, I'm out $1,000 on the 2 that I didn't hire, but that's the cost of hiring the right builder versus the cost of hiring the wrong builder. Charging for bids isn't about the money. It's about sending a signal. We're not amateurs. We're pros. And we're going to charge you for this because we're going to put a lot of time in. We're not looking for tire kickers. We're not looking for people who can't afford this. We're not looking for people who are looking for the cheapest builder. We're looking for people who want a real valuable experience that see the professionalism because we're a professional firm. So that being said, you got to position yourself to get lucky. What do I mean by that? In construction estimating, you have to remember there's still a sales process. There's still a sales component. And sales is a numbers game. You're going to win some. You're going to lose some. You won't be the right fit for every client. But you can easily increase your odds by doing what we're going to be talking about today. Let me ask you, have you ever lost a job you thought you should have won? They liked you. They liked everything about you. The meetings were great. The rapport was on point. The vibe was there. Maybe even they told you, if you can just get the price down a little, we're in. But you couldn't get the price down. Not without cutting corners or cutting your own throat. And then you lose the job. Maybe a friend recommends someone else. Maybe they ghost you. They just disappear without even a courtesy call. And that shit stings because you think you were going to win the job. You mentally had already counted that money. And here's the charred truth. Sometimes the vibes are right, but the price isn't. Sometimes the price is right, but the timing isn't. Sometimes everything seems right, and it still doesn't happen. Not every job is going to be the right job. But if you want to increase your chances, if you want to stack the deck in your favor, if you want to check off every emotional box that your client is thinking about, you have to communicate. Communicate your value. Communicate how you arrived at your price. Communicate that you're solving for them that no one else is even talking about. Communicate the things that you're solving for them that no other builder is talking about. And even the small stuff, you still might lose it. But that's construction. That's sales. That's business. The better you position yourself to put yourself in a position to win these, the more intentional you are with your process, the more shots you're going to have on goal. And the more you practice that, the luckier you're going to get. Or as Arnold Palmer used to say, the funny thing about luck, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. The cheapest bid, though, is the most expensive lie. Let me tell you what I used to do, and I know the majority of builders still do this. A lot of contractors will just give a client the price they want to hear. They lowball the bid, knowing full well they're going to bury the client in change orders later in the process. No remorse, no shame. Now, if that's you, and that's the game you want to play, go ahead. Submit the low bid, stack the change orders, win the job, lose the trust. But if you're the kind of person who actually cares, who wants to build honesty and sleep at night, then understand this. Most contractors are doing this the wrong way. I'm bidding a project right now. It's the biggest project of my career. $8 million. And we're going up against a guy in this town who's a $100 million contractor. Big name, big business. And you know what I found out? This is how he builds. This is how he bids. I've learned this from a lot of people. He actually built one of my friend's houses, and my friend told me he did this. He tells the client exactly what they want to hear. He gives them the number they've got in their head. Knowing the plans are incomplete, knowing the details are missing, but figuring it doesn't matter. He just makes up a change order later in the date. This particular client told us he wanted to be at $800 a square foot in the first interview process. That's exactly what the other contractor bid, $800 a square foot. We came in at $875 for a total of $800,000 more than the other guy. Can you imagine How do you overcome an $800,000 deficit compared to the other builder? That's insane. And it stung when the client told us that. Because here's the difference. We captured the real cost, not just what was on the paper. Because what was coming on the plans still hadn't been shown to the bidders. They were still going through the HOA review process. The plans were still being tailored and they still weren't complete. And we knew that and the other builder knew that. But he bid to plan. We bid to reality. So we were bidding to what the final build was going to be versus what was on the plans. There was no roof drains on the plan. There was no deck drains. I mean, all these flat roofs, no roof drains shown. Well, fuck, you need roof drains. So we had $50,000 in roof drains. This is a big house. So we got $50,000 in roof drains. We have all these drainage. We have all this stuff. There's a pool that required housing of the equipment, but it had to be at a certain level because we talked to the manufacturer. We spoke to the manufacturer of this pool, and they were like, how does this work? Oh, you're going to need a bunker. So we accounted for the concrete walls to go for the bunker to house the mechanical equipment. We had all this stuff, all these line items that were a reality. They weren't shown on the plans. Different waterproofing details. We saw the gaps, and we priced it to reality. He priced it to a dream number for the client at $800 a square foot. We priced it to the actual job. And when we sat down with the client, we explained it. Hey, we know we're $800,000 high, 10% higher than this guy, but let us explain why. If the other builder is just bidding to the plans, he's going to be missing a lot of things. All those items included, he knew was going to be change orders. He knew at the end of the day, the client was going to pay for that. We told him that, hey, you're going to be facing these charges down the road. How the drawings were incomplete, and we showed him what was missing and what would it cost if he didn't plan for it now. We didn't sell the cheapest number. We didn't even try to convince him of our number. We just explained the facts and told him he should ask the other builder if he accounted for those things too. We sold certainty. We sold trust. And we won that job. We said to the client, hey, this is a reality. You're going to need roof drains. Go to your architect. Ask him. You're going to need roof drains. You're going to need this bunker. You're going to need this waterproofing. This framing detail's not working. These windows and blah, blah, blah. All these things aren't in the plans yet because we got, a half done set of plans to bid. And this other builder just bid it. He didn't even really bid it. He just said, yeah, $800 a square foot. I can do it. And he bid it at that number. We sat him down. We said, we know we're $800,000 more, but let us explain to you why. Let us show you the reality of what really has to go into this house. And we won that job. We went up against a guy that's 10 times bigger than us when it comes to volume. And we beat him. We overcame an $800,000 deficit because at the end of the day, the client didn't want the cheapest price. They wanted a builder who was honest and who wasn't going to ambush them halfway through of their dream hole with a bunch of change orders. We overcame an $800,000 difference by laying out the extreme details of the difference of what the build is versus what the competitor is. And that's the difference between being a salesman and being the low number and showcasing why you're the pro. Think of it. If we bid our jobs with as much detail and attention to care, imagine what we would do when we started the building. If we put in this much effort into estimating your project, imagine what we're going to do as a builder for you. We built that trust through our communication, through our clarity. So the scopes of the work tell the stories, not the spreadsheet. The scope of the work was those roof drains. The scope of the work was that bunker, not the spreadsheet we had. Now, one of the quickest ways to have zero idea of what you're building is actually just to throw out how much it's going to cost, collect all the bids from your guys, and just hold that number. Hey, Mr. Painter. Hey, Mr. Plumber. What's it going to cost? $10,000, $5,000? Great. Holding that number. Done. Capturing the number isn't good enough. Collecting the number isn't good enough. It's about capturing the story of what your client actually wants. When you meet with your client for the first time, this is something really important. When you meet with your client for the first time, when you walk with them, when you walk the property, when you walk the house, when you see the plans, when you're interviewing for the job, you're not just there to measure. You're not just there to tell about your company. You're there to listen. You should have a list of questions ready, not just surface stuff, but deep stuff, style details. Do you want Schluter edges? Do you want bull noses? Tiles? Do you want the mitered edges? Do you want a curbless shower? What kind of niches do you want? What kind of countertops? Do you want them leathered? Do you want them polished? Do you want waterfalls? Do you want paint grade doors, stain grade doors? You want casing returns, kerf jams? The bathrooms, do you want floating tubs? Do you want built-ins? And bigger than that, the lifestyle questions. How do you want this house to live? What's most important to you? The kitchen, the master suite, the lighting. Where are you willing to invest? Where are you willing to save? You'd be shocked what people are willing to do. We have one client right now that is basically doing Home Depot stuff in his bathrooms, but he's spending $300,000 or $400,000 on windows. And I'm telling him, hey man, I can get you these exact windows for $90,000. Nope, he wants triple pane, European, very thin profile, Euro glass windows. That's important to him. He's building a passive house. He doesn't give a shit about the bathrooms. I have more clients than not say, I don't care about the windows. Windows are windows. I want the dopest looking kitchen. I want the coolest closet. I want that golf simulator. Everybody has their own hot buttons. Where are they willing to invest? Where are they willing to save? You should ask them that. Hey, what are the areas you don't really care about where we could pick up some money so we could put more money and allocate more buckets of money to these particular areas? Because here's the thing, not every client cares about those windows. Not every client cares about the doors. Some care about the cabinets, the lighting. Some care about the garage finishes, shit. Some care about the master bath, the man caves, the outdoor entertaining spaces. You have to capture that story. And once you do, you don't just send the plans to your subs and hey guys, give me a number. You send them the story of what the client actually wants, what matters to them, what the expectations are. And when you present that bid to your client, you're not just handing over a spreadsheet. You're not just handing over a number. You're telling a story now. You look them in the eye and say, hey, I listened to what you said. I captured your wish list. And it's all right here accounted for in this bid. That's how you build trust. That's how you build clarity. And that's how you stop being just another number and you start being their builder. They're going to hire you on the spot. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I know that the windows are really important to you, so we've allocated a lot of money to the windows. And I know you don't care as much about these types of finishes, so we've gone with the lower grade, these things, this and that. When you do that stuff, they go, wow, because I'm going to almost guarantee it that their other competition that's going up against you is going to send them a spreadsheet and say, here's the number. It's going to cost $1 million. You may be 1 million, 1.1, $1.2 million. But you can say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's our number. But I want to let you know. And you go through and you re-communicate that story that they told you. And you say, this was important to you. We listened, we cared, and because of it, we've captured it right here in this bid. Scopes don't tell the story. Scopes tell the story, excuse me. The scope of the work tells the story, not the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet shows that you're $200,000 more than the other guy. The story tells that you captured every single fine detail that they cared about. That's the difference. It's being precise. Precision is powerful. Precision, here's the deal. Speed is not the flex you think it is. Faster doesn't look professional. Too fast is desperate. Fast can look sloppy. If you're not thoughtful with your number, when you rush a bid, you're showing that you want it too much. You're not showing strength. And the faster you move, the more you're going to miss. And when you miss something in a bid, it's not just a rounding error. It's not just a typo. It's $5, $10, $15, $50,000 to your client because you tried to be the fast guy. It's a pissed off client and potentially lost reference in your portfolio, which is something for another day and another video. But your client references and testimonials is the best form of marketing you will ever do. Slowing down isn't lazy. Slowing down is precision. But it's also critical. But slowing down doesn't mean you're taking forever or you're being unresponsive. It means you set a timeline up front. If you need 5 days to put the bid together, you tell the client you need 5 days. If you need 2 or 3 weeks, you tell the client. And while you're working, you communicate. It's a 5-day bid. You reach out midweek. Hey, just want to let you know we're getting a lot of good bids in. We're halfway there. We're on schedule. We'll have it to you by the end of the week. It's a 2-week, 3-week bid. Hey, just want to let you know, like 10 days in, we're almost done with the bid. We're gathering a couple more numbers. Just touch and point. We're still on schedule to deliver what we said we were going to deliver. And when it comes to those deadlines, you hit it on the date, no excuses. That does 2 things for your clients. It shows that you have follow through. It shows that you can keep a schedule long before they sign a contract with you. Anyone can be fast. The professionals are precise. They communicate. They over-deliver. When you go too fast, you get some fear-driven bids. And those fear-driven bids, they bleed profit. Let me be honest, because I've been there too. I've been everywhere in this business. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to continue to share these videos with you about all the mistakes I've made. But most of us estimate from fear. Now, I've been there, and I speak to contractors all the time who go back and forth on their bid hundreds of times before they send it. They're just, am I too much? They're shaving numbers. They're shaving the price. They refine it. They're terrified to send a number they know is right because they're too afraid it's too high. And what they do, they play it safe. They shave the margins. They cut the allowances. They lowball the categories they know they shouldn't have, that they know should be higher. And then here's the thing. Every one of us has at some point submitted a bid deep down knowing it wasn't solid. There wasn't enough money in general labor and cleanup and finished carpentry. All that small BS, those tasks that creep up and crush your margins, you don't have enough money for. And what do? We submit it anyways. And when we get the bid out, we win the job. We get bit right in the butt. And again, halfway through, we're like, yep, I knew it. I didn't hold enough for whatever. Didn't cover enough for whatever. We're sending change orders, A, B, and C. And we might have even eaten those costs sometimes to save face with the client. And the worst part, it wasn't anyone's fault but yours. Am I right? It took me 4 or 5 projects to learn this lesson the hard way. Submitting low bids because we wanted the job, not because the numbers were right. That's not positioning yourself in a place that you want to be in. It's not just being underfunded in a category. It's a handful of them. And when you start to string a few of those mistakes together on a job, you're not making any money. You're actually paying to work. You're like, shoot, I can go drink coffee and do nothing. I can sit on my couch and watch Netflix and make no money. Why the hell would I take all this risk, all this stress, and go take a job for no money? It's when you estimate emotionally that you're afraid you're going to lose the work that you just submit the number. Estimating emotionally isn't just risky, it's stupid. And it's a slow, painful way to go broke. You have to bid from strength. You have to bid from clarity. You have to trust your numbers even when it feels uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, you'd rather lose the job than take a job that you could lose the money. Once again, I can go drink coffee or watch Netflix and make no money. So why the hell would I take all this risk and deal with all this headache and take it? Don't submit the low numbers if you know you're not going to do it. Fear-driven bids bleeds profit. Recognize that. Man, qualifying your leads. Let's talk about this. This one, don't waste your time. Here's something a lot of contractors forget. When clients are interviewing you, you should be interviewing them too. You should be assessing their personality because not every client is a real client. Some want an $800,000 house for $500,000. Some want it done in a timeline that's laughable. Some are rude, they're dismissive, they're just straight up a pain in the ass, and you can feel it on day one. And here's the thing. Some of them don't even know that they can't afford it yet. They're not serious. They're still wish listing, designing in their mind. They're on Pinterest boards. They want to see what it might cost. But they have no real intent to move forward. They're just kind of kicking the tires. And while they're figuring all that out, they're wasting your time. You're running around, you're putting bids together, very thoughtful bids. This is time that you should be spending with real clients. Time you should be spending with real projects. Time you should be spending with your family. And I can't even tell you how many hours I've spent walking basements, measuring square footages, giving free advice for projects that were never going anywhere. I'm sure that sounds familiar. That's why you need a filter. You need a system that qualifies leads before you give them your time. Basic questions. You have to ask, are you financing this or are you paying cash? What's your timeline? What's your budget range? How soon do you want to get this started? Have you talked to an architect yet? Have you ever built a house before? Are you talking with other builders? What are the things that are important to you? You suss them out. It's not about being rude. It's about being professional. Because if they're serious, they'll respect you for it. They'll respect your time. And if they're not, you just bought back yourself hours, maybe days, that you would have wasted chasing a ghost. Qualifying is not optional. It's survival. I've turned down millions and millions of dollars in work in my career because the client, the project, the location, the timing, it just wasn't right. And that's okay. It's better to say no to work than lose your ass. So back to what my client said, lack of communication, this could bury you. It's your job to communicate and give your clients the option. Communication is beyond critical for your survival. I want to tell you one more story. We bid a job once, a big one, based on a set of interior design drawings that looked pretty standard, and they were kind of complete. There was tile on the floors, there was tile in the showers, nothing crazy. So we bid it, we won it, and we got started. But right after we broke ground, a new set of drawings came out. No big deal. We saw the drawings, we kept moving, construction was moving. 9 months later, we had started the tile. And suddenly the tile guy is telling me he didn't have this much tile in his original bid. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I gave you the plans, you bidded the plans, what are you talking about? And I went back and compared the bid set to the current set that came out after construction started. And he was right. I mean, like really right. And we had messed up bad. There was floor to ceiling tile throughout the whole bathroom, behind the vanities, all the backsplashes, up around the cabinets, tiles in places we didn't even think needed or had tile. It was a ton of extra tile. And when we went back out to reprice it, it was $50,000 more. And you know what the worst part was? We hadn't caught it. We hadn't reviewed the changes carefully enough. We hadn't rebid the scope of work. And by the time we realized it, the tile guy was already ordered the tile and he was already halfway installed, and the client had to be informed. And the client sat us down and was like, hey, yo, why didn't you say something sooner? If I had known putting this amount of extra tile on the walls was going to cost $50,000 more, there is I'm talking a 0% chance I would have done this. There's no way I would have said yes. 0. He was livid. And they were right. They said, if we knew these changes, if you knew there was changes to the documents that impacted this price a little, let alone $50,000, you should have told me immediately. We would have made a different decision. And we would have stuck with the original plan. He was like, how did this happen? Isn't this your job, David, to manage these types of things and communicate them? I was like, yeah. He's like, why aren't you doing your job then? And he was right. I had no good answer. So to save the relationship, and the right thing to do simply to try to maintain the trust, is I said, look, we'll split it with you. And he's like, yeah, you will. He didn't even balk an eye. We split that cost. And our company ate $25,000 out of pocket because we didn't take time to review the new drawings. How simple would that have been? Oh, here's this bathroom. Tile goes to here. Here's this bathroom. Tile goes to here. Shit, that's more tile. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Owner. And we had 9 months to do that, to review the new drawings and update the bid. We didn't do it. And here's the biggest lesson from that pain. Your bid tells the story. Hey, the story is you got tile here and here, and it's going to cost this. You got tile throughout here, and this is how much it's going to cost. And guess what? People, clients, they're willing to change their story based on the information you provide them. But if you don't provide them, you don't give them that information, they can't make the choice. And you'll be the one paying for it. Lack of communication can bury you. Okay, so I want to take the next 5 minutes or so just to kind of land this plane, to kind of recap what we've talked about. I know there's a lot of information that we've gone over, and a lot of it's about emotion and communication. But these are the things that have won us this work. That fascia, we didn't communicate. The client told me. This tile, we didn't communicate. Cost us $25,000. Communication and everything. Your clients will change their story. But as I'm about to land this plane about how you can actually win more work, I want you to realize it's different than you think. Estimating and sales is an emotional game. And if you can communicate that story better than the other guy, you're going to win. So I want to recap what we've done. This is how you're going to win more work. Respect starts when you charge from the first introduction. The first opportunity to show a client what your company is all about. When I first started telling people that we charge for bids, or that we took a deposit of $50,000 for pre-construction services before we even started on the bigger jobs, I was bracing for pushback. I was bracing for impact. And the fact is, I was terrified that they would laugh at me. And then the craziest thing would happen. I expected them to balk. I expected them to ghost me. I expected them to just give me the awkward silence. But what actually happened, they didn't even blink. And most of them expected it. And when I told them that we charged, and then requested a Zoom call to walk through the real details about their wish list, their priorities, their schedule, their budget, their realities, man, it was crazy. These guys turned from tire kickers into actual real clients. Now they were invested. They were treating us like a real company, not a maybe. And here's what happened next. We stopped spending hours interviewing with 30 different prospects who might or might not build or might even pick us up. We brought back our time. We bought back our time, and our closing rate, literally skyrocketed. Because charging for bids isn't about being greedy. It's about signaling, hey, we're busy, we're professionals, we value our time, and you should too. And the real clients, they're going to respect it, and they'll respect you. That's how you're going to win more work. One of my favorite sayings is when people show you who they are, listen. Let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten halfway through a project and think to yourself, why the hell did I say yes to this? I knew I should have never said yes to this. I knew this project was going to be a nightmare. And here's the truth. You knew it from the beginning. You knew that they showed you who they were right from the very start. They were disorganized, they were vague, they were pushy about the budget, about everything. They gave you a gut feeling, the one that you ignored. And because of that, you thought you needed this job, you saw the dollar signs, and now you're stuck. I've been there. I've been there where I've said no. We've said no to millions of dollars of potential clients in projects because we didn't have a good feeling. Like I said, it's in a bad part of town, tight job access, it's a bad budget, bad attitude, slow to make decisions, unresponsive. The list goes on. Whatever it was, it didn't feel right. And the few times we ignored that feeling, man, oh man, did we pay for it. I'm literally in one right now. I'm finishing up one of those jobs right now. A project I took on to help a friend who was in trouble. I didn't want this job. I said no, and then they begged me and begged me. And what was supposed to be a 3 or 4 month project turned into 2 years of frustration, wasted time, wasted money, and worst of all, carrying around that feeling deep down knowing we should have said no. But it's not the obviously bad jobs you have to watch out for. Some jobs are sneaky, shiny traps. They're beautiful, great architects, renderings, big budgets. They're fancy architects, best neighborhoods in your area. But maybe that neighborhood's too far away from you and too far away from your team. Maybe it's too big of a project for your team is right now. Maybe the client gives you that subtle, weird feeling, the ones you can't quite put your finger on it. That feeling is worth listening to because here's the truth. You don't just need a bigger bank account. You need a vision for your business of what jobs you want to build for, what kind of clients you want to work with, what problems you're willing to say yes to, and which ones you want to walk away from. Part of that vision is knowing when to walk. When your gut is telling you it's wrong, listen. When the red flags are there, pay attention. You don't owe anyone a yes. And I'll tell you this, I will never make that mistake again. I knew I shouldn't have taken this project. Bidding a project properly is knowing which jobs not to bid. I knew I should have done it. It was a big, fat red X, and I walked right into it, and man, it pissed me off. So that being said, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. It might be a different no. It might be in a subtle way. But if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And being disciplined and not taking the jobs is one of the best ways to ensure yourself that you're going to take the right jobs and grow your business. Trust me on that. Data builds speed. Speed builds trust. Let me give you a little secret that's so simple, but most of us, including myself, ignore far too long. The secret weapon in estimating is information. The more information you have, the more you collect, the more data you have, the faster you can estimate. The more accurately you can estimate, and when you're fast and accurate, you don't just win jobs, you win the right jobs. The jobs with the clients who appreciate you. Speed, accuracy, communication, customer service, all of this. Everyone out there thinks that they're with their fancy spreadsheets or their better estimating software, they'll magically win more work. And you don't get me wrong, the right tools matter. But here's the truth. If you're upfront communicate, it's your upfront communication that wins work. Before you even go out and try to bid the job, do this first. We built what I call a living spreadsheet, constantly updated with historical pricing, cost per square foot for finishes, fixture prices by tier, budgets to premium, cabinet by sizes, quantities by type, the doors, all these things. Because if you have this data, this living history, we can now put this into an accurate estimate even without a full set of drawings. Go look at your projects and compile that information. This is real documentation with real historical data that can help you understand what something will actually cost quite accurately before you put an entire bid out. We can give real clients quick, upfront, accurate pricing. With room to move and evolve, but information equals speed. Now you sound credible. You have accurate numbers that are basically that aren't off the top of your head. They feel like they are, but they're speed and accurate. And speed and accuracy wins trust. And trust equals winning the right work. And trust me, that's the game you want to be playing. If you can come with this historical data, this takes time. You gotta sit in your office and you gotta pull up all your past projects, and it takes time. But just go category by category. Okay, what's concrete cost on the Smith residence, the Wintzer residence, the whatever residence? You got 25 houses. What are the concrete costs? Then you gotta do the takeoff. So this was 100 square feet. This was 1,000 square feet. This was 500 square feet. You do all that, and you're like, okay, on average, we're charging $17 a square foot for concrete. Now you're going to doors. We're doing $800 a door. We're doing $2,000 a door. Boom, 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 boom. And you're going all the way through. You have a high end, a medium, and a low end. And then you can just go to that client and give them real information of what this is going to cost. So then you sound really smart. They start trusting you because you have accuracy, and trust wins work. Layering data, when we're talking about layering data, as you're talking to these future clients, you're using this data to sound professional. Like you've collected all this data now. So you're using this to sound professional. You sound intelligent about your business, about your pricing. This builds confidence. It takes the time by sitting down, and sitting down with your team and compiling all this data. Everything. These are the things, these are the systems, these are the things that are boring. These are the foundations of your business that you have to do. You have a cost for everything, constantly being updated, and you use it often. You'll be amazed how much more confident you feel and sound when you talk to your clients about a potential number for the first time, when you have this layered data. As Alex Hormozy would say, it's incredible how confident and smart you can sound with 20 minutes of preparation. So imagine if you sat down and looked at all your data, you just sound so much more sharp. You sound so much better. You become sharper with those words. You sharpen that sword. But the biggest thing that sharpens that sword, once again, is questions. Questions sharpen the sword. We as builders get trapped, and trust me, I've been guilty of this too. It usually starts as, you collect a bid from a subcontractor, you say thank you, you plug that number into your spreadsheet, no questions, no conversation, just blind trust. And once I started asking the questions to these guys, everything changed. And when I'm talking about communication, I'm just not talking about communication with your clients. I'm talking about communications with everyone, especially your subcontractors. If there's a thing I attribute to my success in all business, it's that I'm humble enough to ask a ton of questions. I'm not afraid to say, I don't know what we're talking about here. I know nothing about this subject. Educate me. You have to ask them, what's missing from these plans? What's not in your bid? Did you just do the lowest job? or did you account for the best house? Let me ask you this. If you were to build this house, if this was your house and you had an endless budget, how would you make this house live better? I had an HVAC sub tell me once, when I'm asking him this question, I said, hey, what would you do differently? He's like, yeah, the plans call for 2 furnaces, but if it were me, I'd put in 4. That's the way you can properly zone this thing and have the house live more comfortably. I asked him, how much more does that cost? He's like, $20,000. So guess what? I held that HVAC bid with 4 furnaces because now the client asks about HVAC or I bring it up in our bidding presentation. I'm not just guessing. I'm not just making stuff up to sound smart. I'm spitting facts right from the mouth of the professional, the HVAC guy. I'm also giving them the opportunity to save $20,000 if they want. Hey, the house will definitely function properly with 2, but if you want more optimal living, we recommend 4. This way you're giving them the choice to save the money over the function. You're communicating. You're providing opportunities to save money. You see that? The more questions you ask, the more holes you find. The more holes you find, the stronger your number gets because you are backed with real information, not just a guess, not just a number. And the stronger your numbers, the easier it is to become more valuable, to prove your value, because now you're not just pitching. Now you're relaying reality of what it's going to take to build this home and the ways to save money, and you just eliminate X. And now, since you have that story of what your client wants to tell, you know the areas you can shave the money. Hey, I know that the last house you worked, the AC didn't work, so we have 4 furnaces in this. But I know that you don't really care about the kitchens and the bathrooms, so I've bid the lower cabinets. You've heard that story. You're relaying that story. This way they can spend the money in the areas that make sense to them. There's no hype. There's no just hope. There's no just spitting numbers or salesy. It's just facts. And clients feel that. Trust me, they can tell when you know. And you're not just guessing. Questions build confidence. Confidence builds trust. Trust wins work. You have to ask more questions. Trust me. Now this one I love. This is my favorite. The better storyteller wins. Fact. Let me show you the difference of one contractor sends over a bid, a basic PDF. Hey, framing $65,000, electrical is $40,000, plumbing's $35,000, flooring is $25,000, totaling $195,000. That's it. A list of numbers. They tell a story, no explanation. Here's the number. Here you go. Here's what you do. You send over a branded proposal, polished, detailed, professional, a breakdown of what's included and why it matters to the client. You note potential savings costs. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, want to let you know, like we've accounted for these things. We've added this, and this. We put 4 furnaces in. We can save $20,000 here. We've done this with the windows. We can save $50,000 here. You lay out the potential savings costs, cutting the quantities, a personal message. Hey, we've listened to you. We heard your story. What's important to you? We've listened. We've added the kitchen, the living space, the master, the bath, and then you record a 1-minute video walking them through the bid. And you don't show them the entire bid. You don't show them the entire thing. You show them the plumbing, $65,000, the this, the $25,000, the this, and then you get towards the bottom and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're going through the numbers. Here's the numbers. But you start telling them about that story. Hey, we know that it was important for you to have this cabinet. We know the man cave was important to David. We know the outdoor living space was important to Karen. And because of that, we've captured these things. But we want to go over all these things. There's a lot of ways to save money. And we're really excited to share this with you. And we're excited to show you what we came up with and all the cost-saving opportunity. So before they even see the final number, before you even reveal it to them, you say, we're so excited to share this bid with you. We'd like to go over it with you in person so we can show you how we arrived at this number. And then you give them a couple opening dates in the next 48 hours. A link to a Zoom call and say, hey, I'm open tomorrow at these 3 times. I'm open the next day at these 3 times. Why? Before you send them that sticker shock, so the other bidder is $195. You're $250. So before you just send those numbers and they get sticker shock, all they're going to see is that you're $55,000 more. That's all they're even going to compute. But before they even get that sticker shock, before they even panic and compare the bottom lines of the other builder who's not telling a story, you're controlling the story. You're showing them how you built this number around their vision. You're telling the better story than the other guy. And here's the truth. The best story wins. In constructions, clients don't buy the cheapest number. They buy the confidence. They buy the clarity. They buy you. The other guy sends over a number for $195K and you're $250, but you're telling a story how to save that money, the realities of what this build will take, and all the information you got from asking your subs the right questions. They're going to choose you, I promise. And if they don't, it wasn't the right bid. Because some clients, yes, they're all about cheap bids. But that doesn't mean that these clients are. And you can't assume that. So you send over a professional proposal, you send over a little video, and then you say, hey, and you basically don't even show them the numbers. I'd like to go over these numbers with you. I'm excited to do it. But you do it by telling them the story. So they're like, man, this guy really listened. I'm excited for this. The best story wins. So clear beats cheap every time. Right now, this is in real time. We're about to start the 2 biggest houses we've ever built. And these 2 houses, in the interview process, we were given, all right, so like in this interview process, we were given the entire, I'm just wrapped up in these like thoughts. I had this crazy epiphany of how we won these 2 jobs. And these are the 2 biggest jobs we ever won. And this system, this everything is new to us. You know, this clear, cheap, all this stuff, this is real time. I'm never going back. I am never going back because we were submitting all these bids. We're doing all this stuff. And now I started communicating and telling these stories and it's working on a really high level and I'm never going back. So in real time, we're literally like, we've won these jobs. Like I'm talking like last week we signed these contracts, like from the filming of this video. We've won these jobs like a week ago. And here's the crazy part. We beat the builders that I used to aspire to be. Builders with $100 million, up to $2 billion companies. But we didn't beat them because we were cheaper. And it wasn't because we were one with more experience. We didn't have a flashy resume. We beat them in the interview process. We beat them because of how we presented our bids. We tailored, strategic, aligned with high-end expectations, with high-end clients. Our clarity and our communication, truly, it won us the job. And here's something to remember when you're leveling up. Not everyone wants the big corporate builder. Some clients want a builder they can go have a beer with, a builder they can go ski with, someone they can call directly, get their personal cell phone. They don't want a builder with 100 employees. They like that personal connection. And the better we got at communicating, the more detailed we became, the more we grew. Now, on both of these interviews, we just won. The client and the architect both told us, you won the job because of how detailed your bid was, how clearly you explained what you captured. You weren't cheaper, you were clearer. That's how we leveled up. And this is happening right now, like in real time in my business. This is happening. You're not the only one being interviewed. So as I've said before, you're interviewing these clients. So in the initial introduction of these clients, you know, the meetings, we were interviewing these clients. Most of these builders that we were going against, most builders think that the clients were vetting them out. But here's the truth. You should be vetting your client out just as hard. On these 2 big jobs that we just won, before they even gave us a chance to bid, one client interviewed 8 builders. He had an initial conversation with 8 builders just to see what personality he liked. The other one interviewed 4 builders. Now, out of all those builders, both houses said, we're bringing it down to 2. So these 8, these are my top 2. These 4, these are my top 2. You top 2, please put a bid together. We'll select the builder from there. So we were one of the 2 on both houses to put a bid together in the project. And we were one of the 2 to go out and put the price. So we were able to, so how did we stand out in the beginning? How do we tell these clients that we were the ones before we even got the project? And what we did differently, and this is what I'm never going back to, we flipped the script. Most builders, they spent the entire interview selling to the clients. They told the clients, about how great they were. And I know this because the clients told us after the fact, after we won, I've asked them, why did you choose us over the other builders? They said, oh, most of the other builders, they talked about their awards, their technologies. They're showing off their past resumes, why they're so great. They're listing everything they've done. They spent the whole time trying to prove why they were better than anyone else. And we didn't do that. We were the only builder that didn't do that. Instead, we spent our time asking the client, have you ever built before? How'd it go? What's your budget? What's most important to you? Is it budget? Is it speed? Is it quality? What's your style? Is it modern? Is it farmhouse? Is it rustic? Is it contemporary? Are you working with an interior designer? Are you thinking about, what kind of stonework you want? Do you want heavy timber, big window systems? What about the fireplaces, the radiant heat, the snow melt? What are the wish list items in your house? What are the things you want? We asked question after question, and we asked 80% of the time we were on the call with them questions. And only the last 20% we started talking about what we do as a builder. And guess what we did? We flipped that script. We catered to what we told them. We didn't just pitch ourselves. We showed them how we could solve their problems. These are the problems they just talked about, mind you. Oh yeah, I'm really concerned that one client was so concerned about water. They come from a flood zone in Louisiana. They're terrified of water. And so they're talking about waterproofing. They're telling us the story about this horror story. This other builder's talking about they don't want the cedar siding to fail. They don't want it to sun warp over time. They don't want the stuff. So we sat there and listened for 80% of the time. And then the next 20%, we just said, hey, here's how we can solve this problem. There's plenty of siding that doesn't warp. There's, it's higher in siding, but there's a couple things like this. Most siding is going to be around $7 a square foot. This is $15 a square foot for the siding, but we know it's not going to sun fade. With the waterproofing areas, we're going to do this. We're going to do the drainage. We're going to fridge drains. We use the high end. Some builders might use a 20 or 40 mil product of waterproofing. We're going to use a 60 mil with a drainage mat, with a footing drain, with a strip, blah, 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 blah. We talked about it, how we could align with their vision. They just listened. We showed how we could deliver what they wanted better than anybody else. We gave early ideas, simple value adds. Instead of full bed stone, you could use half bed stone. Here's ways to save costs without losing the look. It could be up to $50,000 just in stone savings. Holy cow. You can rough in snow melt for the driveways, that's really expensive, but you don't have to hook it up now. You can hook up the boilers later. But we'll put an allowance for it and see if we have enough money at the end. After both those interviews were over, both these clients told us that was hands down at the very end of the meeting, before we signed off, they said, this was hands down the most in-depth, meaningful conversation we've had yet. We've had a lot of builders, and out of 12 builders combined that we went up against, we had the conversation that mattered. We didn't sell, we listened, we learned, and we showed them what we could bring to their wishes. We showed how we could take their wish list, how we could take their story, and we could bring it to life. Whoever communicates best wins the biggest. Look, once again, I'm coming at you with real-time information. These are the things recently unlocked in our business, in our mindset, in the way we do things, and what it's taking to win high-end work. We did $20 million in the first 2 years of business, and we just landed $20 million in the first 6 months of this year. And here's the truth. We're asking for deposits. We're charging for estimates. We're communicating clearly, confidently with clients. And that's what it's taking to win these jobs. These are jobs that we used to literally dream of winning, aspire to be towards in the last 4 years. And now we're winning these consistently. And here's the kicker. We're winning these jobs against the builders who have bigger names. They have bigger resumes. They have more employees. They've built houses way bigger and better than we have. They built bigger houses, and they were even cheaper than us. In one of those scenarios, $800,000 cheaper. But they didn't out-communicate us. They didn't deliver the full package. They didn't tell the whole story. They didn't bring the story to the table, because it's not just about the price anymore. It's about the finishes, the trim level, the style, the schedule, the budget, the realities, and your systems, and how you as a company are going to bring this together. We're telling the complete story, not just handing over a number. I can tell you confidently, it's changed the trajectory of our business forever. The last job I went after, I was up against a guy who built 120 homes in this town. He's built 120 homes in this town over the last 30 years. Me, I built 12 over 4 years. We beat him. And I get it now. I finally understand what it takes because I asked the client, why did you choose us over them, over the big names? Because you guys listened. You guys cared. I told you guys what I wanted, and you told me how you could deliver that. Those other guys were just giving me the number that I wanted to hear, and they told me why they were so great. This is what it's taken to go up against the bigger names with the deeper portfolios. And I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. You can do this. It takes effort. It takes hard work. It takes belief in the process, but it isn't a theory. This isn't some magic spreadsheet. This is a proven system, and it's working. $20 million in the first 6 months this year. Trust me, this is real. And if it's working for me, it will work for you too. A lot of people, including me, have that self-doubt. When you're watching people on the internet, you're like, I can never do that. I'm only doing $100,000 a year. I can't be that guy. You can. If it's working for me, it can work for you. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just telling a story. I'm listening. I'm communicating. I'm asking questions, and I'm just packaging it all in a way that gives it in a delivery process to this client to show them the confidence that we are the right contractor for them. And if the price is the price and they want the lower price, well, shit, we were never going to win it anyways. But I'm not going to sacrifice my price because I know my value. Know your value and be willing to lose that work. And sometimes you may be like, David, I need the work. My company's struggling. Great. Then take the work. Sometimes you need the job to get back on feet, get your cash flow, but don't get stuck in that cycle. Bid your jobs right, bid them properly, and then learn how to tell that story better. This is meaningful. This is impactful. This is the truth, and I need you to hear it because it's reality. This is real time, you guys. This has changed the way my business is running, and I am so passionate about it because it's working. It is working. And this system, this is for the 1%. These contractors that are doing $100 million, I have a goal in the next 3 to 4 years to hit $100 million. And these guys that I thought I could never touch, my goal is now to beat these fuckers because I know that I'm telling a better story than them. And I've listened to their guys at lunch and stuff. They don't have a system. So I can go out and accumulate this work. And with the right system, I can keep up with the work. I can stay organized and I can follow the system and I can build the company. I can transfer it. I can sell it. And I can not only sell the company, I can hand it off to someone, but I can sell the clients because I'm telling the story that they want to hear. I'm listening to the questions and then I'm packaging it and then I'm showing them, look at our business. Our business is top notch. We have this story. And so what I'm closing with this is my closing statement to you guys. This is going to work for 1% of you. This is going to work for 1% of people who actually care to try. I talk to a lot of contractors, and trust me, I used to be that guy. I'd watch all the courses. I'd do all these things. When I was waiting tables, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go sell shit on the internet. I'm going to be an Amazon drop shipper. I'm drinking in the parking lot before I'm going to work, and I'm like watching these videos of Tony Robbins. I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I didn't do shit. I was just buying courses, doing stupid stuff, and I didn't do shit because I didn't put in the work. It wasn't until I realized like there's no magic ball. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic, oh, I live in the right town with the right market with the right this. No, you got to put in the work. It takes effort. And so there's 1% of people. I'm talking 1%. I gotta draw this out because it's not working. This is for 1% of people. 1% of you are actually going to do this. Let me tell you guys something. When I left my first business at 36 years old, I was devastated. I went from being an entrepreneur to waiting tables, and I was borderline alcoholic, smoking a bunch of weed with serious depression. And I can't tell you how many times I'd run into people around town, in the grocery store, at restaurants, and I'd explain to them why I had to shut down our business of 10 years and why I was back waiting tables. At the age of 36, it was humiliating. It was the lowest I'd ever felt in my life. But 5 years later, I quit the job. I wasn't waiting tables. I'd gotten a job at a construction company, and I went off on my own. And I hit $20 million in construction sales. I went from broke to $20 million in under 2 years after starting that company. That journey changed me, but it also showed me what's possible. Now, I'm seriously on a mission to help the few, the elite 1% who actually are willing to do what it takes. Now, I've spoken to contractors all across the country for the past 4 years. I've met a lot of business owners, and I'll be honest, a lot of people like me have the dream. They have a desire, But when it comes to actually doing the work to show back up, complete the task, build the system, ask the hard questions, communicate better than anybody else, to lean into the scary unknown, most people disappear. They no longer want to do the work. They're like, if that's required to accomplish those dreams and desires, it's not for me. Because here's the truth. If you want to grow your business, you have to grow yourself. You have to do the things you haven't done before. I learned this the hard way. You got to get uncomfortable. You have to take action when it's easier to stay still. Only a few are going to do that. In any industry, in any walk of life, that's simply just human nature. But if you're one of the rare few, guys, trust me, it took me 37 years of my life to actually do what I needed to do. If you're watching this and you're like, yeah, that's me, dude. I've never committed to it. I always say that. I buy the course, or I buy the spreadsheet, or I say I'm going to do it, and you don't do it. That was me. And then when I buckled down and started doing the work, it was incredible. Shit actually started happening. So if you're one of the rare few, if you're that kind of person who does take action, then you're going to keep connecting with this content that I'm putting out. These videos, they're here for you. These videos are for construction business owners who don't just want to survive, who don't just want to stay busy, but who want to scale to places they've only dreamt of. I'm telling you, I would drive by job sites of these big builders every day, wishing, hoping, dreaming to build alongside these guys in these neighborhoods. And now, as of the last week, I'm beating those exact guys. I simply can't believe that this dream is truly a reality. To build a business that gives you back control, to build a business that gives you back time, profit, and peace of mind, I'm sharing with you the exact frameworks that took me from broke waiting tables to running a multi-8-figure construction company. I'm changing the way my whole YouTube channel works. I'm giving you guys long-form, real value of how we took our company from 0 to 8 figures in just 2 years. Now, if this content's for you, these videos are for you, but if you think you're the kind of person who listens to this and doesn't take action, this isn't probably for you. I'm not here for spectators. I'm here for builders. I'm here for people who want to watch these videos and put in the real time, because I want to see real change. I want real entrepreneurs, real people who want to build something, who want to scale without just thinking it's going to happen for you. Let me tell you about entrepreneurship really quick. If you think construction is undefeated, entrepreneurship has taken more souls on planet Earth than anything you can imagine. I was one of those victims in my last business. Trust me, 10 years of running that bitch, and it shut down. I get it. I understand what you're going through if you're struggling. I've been there. Everything's not rainbows and unicorns. If you listen to my content, I share with you the L's, the losses, the lessons. And I'm hopeful that you're that 1%, because I'm producing this content for you guys. I care about you guys. I'm rooting for you guys. Sincerely, I'm rooting for all of you. My hope is that everyone gets rich. That's what I hope. So if you could do me a favor, if you found this video helpful, could you hit the button, just the like button, the subscribe button, drop a comment below. Let me know your revenue goal. I want to know your revenue goals. I want to track you guys. I want to see what your goal is in the next 12 months. I want to hear it. Seriously, I'm rooting for you guys. I hope you guys blow past me. I hope you get bigger than me, truly. I'm watching from afar. I'm rooting for you. And maybe one day you can even teach me some things, because that's construction. It's undefeated. There's always something to learn in construction. So I'm putting out these videos more in depth, more content. And if you could just hit the like, subscribe button and share this, that'd be really meaningful. Drop in the comments your revenue. That's what I want to hear. And, I'll be dropping these videos a lot more. And if you don't want to wait for the next video, if you don't want to wait for this next video to drop, if you're truly ready to start scaling your company now and you're looking to grow your business, I'm looking for the select few of individuals to scale with. I don't want tire kickers. I want dedicated professionals ready to take the leap to the next level. Now, if that's you, send me a DM on Instagram with the words 8 figures. Send me the DM on Instagram to David James Wintzer with the word 8 figure. and I'll send you everything you need to know to get started. I appreciate you guys. Truly, you have no idea. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.